Hi everybody, and welcome back to our LeetCode 75 study plan series. Today we're going to be doing number 4 of the playlist, and it's called Can Place Flowers. This is ranked as an easy difficulty problem, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. All right, for the problem, you have to you have a long flower bed in which some of the plots are planted and some are not. However, flowers cannot be planted in adjacent plots. Given an integer array flower bed containing zeros and ones, where 0 means empty and 1 means not empty, and an integer n, return true if n new flowers can be planted in the flower bed without violating the no adjacent flowers rule, and false otherwise. So we can see with two examples here, basically they want us to see if we can plant a flower and the empty plot is represented by 0 and a plot with a flower is represented by 1. So in this case, we can put 1 in there. That's true because there's going to be two zeros to the side if we plant it in the middle. And then here, obviously we can't place 2 because then there wouldn't be a 0 to each side of the flower that's planted. So pretty straightforward problem, I think. I think that the implementation is not going to be too difficult here. When I went through it for the first time, I kind of had a naive approach of just counting the numbers of zeros and trying to place flowers based off of the number of zeros. But that won't work because it doesn't take into account the adjacency rule. So let's use a different strategy. We're going to iterate through an array, and for each plot, we're going to check if it's empty, and if it is, we're going to look at the previous and the next plots, right? First, we still need to have a count variable for that, so we can just do, we can call that count, and we can set it to 0. And then we're going to need to go through a loop, right? So we can just use a traditional for loop for that, right? And then we'll make it the size of the flower bed and increment I, right? Cool. So then, oops, it's not I right there. Okay, so we need to set up a conditional statement, right? If flower bed at index I is equal to 0, because if it is, that means that we don't already have a flower there in that plot, and we're checking to see if we can plant one, right? So in order to do that, we have to take into consideration two things, because it can either be at the beginning plot, which there's no left side, right? That has to be counted as a 0, and then it could be in the last iteration where the plot to the right doesn't exist, so it has to be considered as a 0, right? So the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to set up two ternary operators. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to explain it in just a second, right? So we'll set up our next and our previous. Okay, so int next equals, and then we have to do a conditional statement, and we can do that in parentheses. So I is equal to flower bed dot length minus 1 because it's 0 indexed. And then the syntax for this is using a question mark, and then two assignments basically, right? So we'll set it equal to flower bed I plus 1. Okay, so let me explain what this is doing here. So basically, we're assigning the next variable, the next integer, a value, and we're basing it off of a condition. Is I equal to flower bed dot length minus 1, right? So basically, why I use that condition is we're checking to see if it's at the last index of the array. If it is, then it needs to be counted as a 0. So what we do is we do a question mark, and then if it's true, then it's the one to the left. It's assigned to the value on the left of the colon, right? So it's 0. If it's not, then it's just assign the next value, right? I plus 1. Okay, so then let's go ahead and do that for the previous value, right? So we're still going to do a ternary operator. So in this case, we're just seeing if I is equal to 0. And then if it is, then we do it to 0, again, just like the previous one with next. And if it's not, then it's just the default value of I minus 1. So if you still have questions on ternary operators, guys, please feel free to ask me in the comment section, and I'm more than happy to answer it. It was a little bit difficult for me to understand at first when I was first learning about ternary operators in Java, and I know they can be a little bit tricky for people who don't know what they are. So yeah, I'm more than happy to explain however I can. All right, so then now we need to put our next and previous variables to use. So we're going to do if next is equal to 0 and previous is equal to 0, right? Because those are the conditions for being able to plant a flower. All right, so then flower bed, we have to set that equal to 1, and we have to increase the count. Okay, so then let's get out of this, and then, well, we're returning a Boolean value, right? So it's going to be true if count is greater than or equal to n. Okay, so we can just put the condition as the return statement, and it's going to return a Boolean. So we can just set it like that, and then let's go ahead and try to run this, see if it works. Yeah, so it's accepted, right? Okay, and then we'll go ahead and submit this, and we can go over the time and space complexity. Okay, so as you can see, it's an optimized solution. It beats 99.51% of the other solutions, and then it beats 34.84% of memory for other solutions, right? So in terms of the time and space complexity, we're going to have a runtime of big O of n, because we're just iterating through the length of the flower bed, which can be up to size n. Okay, and then for the space complexity, it's going to be constant, big O of 1, because we're not using any data structures that scale up the size with this specific algorithm. So it's going to be using minimal memory. So this was a relatively easy one, guys. We're going to be moving on to the medium levels and a couple of episodes. So stay tuned, and if you found this helpful, please go ahead and subscribe and like the video. As I've mentioned before, you know, I'm early in building up my channel, so I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible in my early days. So if you found this video helpful and you want to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.